Okay, so I really want to point out here about the coursework brief. Like, look at the way the coursework brief. Well, first of all, first thing you should identify is the basic requirements and the advanced requirements. So basic requirements here, the system should accept analog data inputs. So I know some of you are using the proximity beaker there. That's analog data. Some of you are using the ultrasonic sensors and that. That is what do you call it? The ultrasonic sensors, analog data again, and all that. But you go on there, but look, you know, at this stage you kind of know them. But here is what really tries to guide you in your project. A rationale for the approach to the brief. Key questions. Are you answering all of those key questions in your project? So are you answering all of those key questions in your project there? Can you identify and describe existing systems? Do any of these systems trigger questions to research further? Going down here to response to the brief again, key questions again. And this is the way your website should be laid out. And it's going to take an hour or two to extract all the files if some of you have done it in WebLab and that. The artifact of the video in operation. What are the main features of the system? Create a video of 5 minutes max. Duration only 1 gigabit max, and it should demonstrate the main features of your system in operation. Embed this video. Here again, design and development of artifact 3.1. A load of questions there. And some of you are missing me here, and like, this is the marking scheme. So an examiner is going to have this marking scheme. When I try and do my marking scheme the next day, outline the marking scheme. So these are the key questions that had to be answered and all that. And it's going to be tying in here to this. Tying into, like, have you quality of report, structure and layout, evidence of students' adherence to the principles of good user interface design when creating the website. Some of you may be spending a lot of time doing websites and that. You get 5 marks out of 90 for doing like exceptional websites and that. There's only 5 marks going for it. A rationale for the approach to the brief, that's where I'm hitting back into this stuff here. Rationale for the approach to the brief shows evidence of research and investigation of the context and the task, clearly explains choices made, offers clear rationale behind the overall design approach, 10 marks for that. Meeting the brief. The artifact is consistent with the context and theme of the brief. The requirements of the brief are met. Identified end user needs are met. So initially your project is to do with how you can help prevent the spread of COVID-19. What is your project doing to do that? How are you going to meet the end user's needs in doing that? So for example, if you're using proximity beacons, your idea is to keep people 2 meters apart. What are you doing in your microbit to alert people that they are closer than 2 meters? Are you sounding a buzzer? Are you, what are you doing to alert people? So again, Kieran, you're using your washing hand timer there. You're on yours. You're using your soap dodger and that. That's what you're responding to in the end user's needs. You're letting them know by showing them those messages. Iterative design process presents a design timeline with justification of key decisions, explains the iterative design approach adopted. So the iterative design approach adopted. Like Rebecca, I take you for example there. You came up with a design. It didn't work. You had to go back to the drawing board. You came up with a second thing. There was problems with that. We came back again. We had to do something else. You've had about 4 iterations in your project to end up with what you've got. Have you documented that of what you started with and your basic initial one there? I can't remember exactly what it was. If you mentioned that, and how when you went to try it and test it, the whole problems with sound and that. I don't know, was that you or was it Kieran? Were you with the sound? Your first iteration, sound was a nightmare because doors opening, toilets flushing could all trigger the microbit. You had to iterate back, which means you had to come back again and kind of go at it again and then that. Have you showed that iterative design approach, computational thinking and problem solving? Have you showed things like abstraction, like how you have removed kind of unnecessary detail and focused on particular parts to solve that problem? Have you? So when you were trying to focus on how am I going to detect, to start a timer, how am I going to detect that? And again, one of the things, get rid of sound. You ignored sound. You ignored thing. You focused on someone activating the sensor there, and only the sensor. How did you do that? Well, you measured the initial distance from when the sensor starts, and then if that distance is broken and it becomes less, and you're abstracting there, you're focusing, narrowing it down and working on that only. Do you know what I mean? Decomposition, how are you breaking up the different parts to work on the different parts? Algorithmic thinking, have you got an algorithm in there of how your project is coming, how it comes together, what happens, the steps? Do you know, you activate the ultrasonic sensor. The ultrasonic sensor sends a message to starts recording the time. When it's finished, it sends a message to your server microbit, or to your microbit, or the microbit picking it up, of course, activating the timer. There's lots of things to go through. Programming skills, things to understand here. You know, have you put functions into your code? Some of you need help with that today. Need help with, you know, the code that you've done, maybe writing a few functions and making your code look a bit better. 15 marks for that. A lot going in there for programming skills and making your code look more efficient using functions. So showing an awareness of adaptive technology, creative and appropriate use of technology, awareness of core computer science concepts, demonstrates an awareness of the end user and potential social impacts. So all along you are thinking about how you can help in the spread against COVID-19. And then you've got things like your evaluation, which is your reflection, and your future development. To describe how, if you have more time, what you maybe could have done to your system to make it better. And, you know, lots of key questions to be answered there. But if you jump back in here to all of these things, evaluation of the artifact, have you answered these questions? Don't put these questions in your brief. Talk about how you've answered them.